Hello viewers, this is the next part of the flight story where we have this title of the next story, that is The Black Aeroplane. This lesson, Black Aeroplane by Frederick Frost, reflects on how one's judgment gets distorted due to fantasizing and how it creates problem. In this chapter, the narrator is a pilot who is so eager to meet his family. The narrator is so eager actually to meet his family that he wants to have a good breakfast, that he takes the wrong decision of facing the storm instead of doing the right thing. He should have stayed, but then he actually took a wrong decision because of hurry. And then what outcome does he meet? This is what it is explained in this wonderful story. Miraculously, he somehow managed to escape with the help of a mysterious airplane. So there is this mysterious airplane also, which there is a description of it here in the story, The Black Airplane. Let's see. The moon was coming up in the east behind me and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. So this pilot is describing the condition of the sky at that time. It was, he says the moon was coming up in the sky from the east and then stars were all shining. It was a clear sky. There was no storm. There was no indication that the weather was going to be deteriorate. But the deterioration of the weather took place after some time. It was not going to be deteriorating, but then it deteriorated after some time. I was happy to be alone high up above the sleeping countryside. I was flying my old Dakota airplane over Frank back to France. He was heading from France to England. So this is a description, like here where he was coming as a pilot from, and you know the entire countryside, the village, the entire area was, it was the time of night naturally, so everybody was asleep, and then he was flying overhead. And then I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. I looked at my watch, 1:30 in the morning. So it was almost midnight, 1:30 early morning. And then he was just looking so happy and excited that I'll go and have breakfast with my family. I should call Paris soon. I thought as I looked down the past the nose of the airplane, I saw the lights of big city in front of me. I switched on to radio and said, Paris Control, Dakota DS-088 here. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England over. So then he thought of calling his base, the people up there, and then he's identifying himself with this code number and all that. The voice from the radio answered me immediately. DS-088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS-88, over. And this was the response. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank, and I turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. As he was told that you go to this particular direction from the base, he followed that. I'll be in time for breakfast, I thought. And he thought that I'll be there by the time it's the time for breakfast. I'll reach my family. A good big English breakfast, everything was going well. It was an easy flight. Paris was in about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds. Storm clouds, they were huge. They looked like black mountains. So he's comparing those clouds, around when he got an instruction from his airbase. So he's just thinking that by the time it is the breakfast time, I'll certainly reach my home. Standing in front of me across the sky, I knew I could not fly up and over them, and I did not have enough fuel to fly around them to north or south. So he thought that why should I be, taking this decision, fly here and there, and then there was no fuel also left in the plane. So I ought to go back to Paris, I thought, but I wanted to get home. So the immediate decision, the actual decision which was likely to be taken by him according to the circumstances and situations and the warning that he has received, he was supposed to go back to Paris. But then I wanted the breakfast. I will take the risk, I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Now, this is really, really interesting because despite the warning that he has received, and he was supposed to go back to Paris from where he headed, but then he again was so crazy about the family breakfast. So he just took the chance, took the risk, we may say. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the airplane. The old airplane jumped and twisted in the air. I looked at the compass and then he grew a little panicky. He started getting scared also because he has taken a chance, a risk, and that is he is in the midst of the storm. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round and round. It was dead. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. Paris control, Paris control. Can you hear me? There was no answer. The radio was dead too. So all his aids, the compass as well as the, contact to the radio, everything was dead. He was not able to contact anybody. And as I told you, he is already taking a risk and he is in the storm. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. I was lost in the storm. So he has no idea which direction is he going to. These two things are very important for the pilots. The compass, which tells them, where they are, the location, as well as the connection with the radio. I was lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another airplane. Now then suddenly he saw another airplane. It had no lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. So he had a sigh of relief because he saw one more airplane there and it was just flying just near him. I could see the pilot's face turn towards me. I was happy. I was glad to see another person, and then he was naturally very happy. Naturally, it happens when you're in a typical tough position, and when you see somebody around, you actually have a sigh of relief and you feel a little encouraged that somebody else is also here. I'm not the alone one. So here he is happy that he could at least get to see some other plane and some other person. Follow me, he was saying, follow me. He knows that I am lost. He was so happy that, at least this pilot also knows that I'm lost, and that's why he's asking me to follow. And for that matter, he's very sure that this pilot who's asking him to go is actually well versed with the way. I thought he's trying to help me. He turned his airplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota so that Dakota is a kind of an airplane, of course. He turned his airplane slowly to the north in front of Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. I was very happy to go behind the strange airplane like an obedient child, and he's comparing himself like with an obedient child, and he says, I was so obedient because he was already in a crisis and he really wanted to go home. He naturally now he's in this was a question of his life. He has risked his life just for the breakfast, family breakfast. So now he obediently followed the other pilot. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. So it was only 5 minutes, 10 minutes mileage, this much fuel was remaining. I was starting to feel frightened again, but then he started to go down and I followed through the storm. And then he was thinking, what will happen? He's asking me to follow, but then if he takes longer distance, I don't have enough fuel. But then he had a sigh of relief one more time when the airplane started, the one who's guiding him started going down and he was to follow. Suddenly, I came out of the clouds. I saw 2 long straight lines of lights in front of me. It was a runway. And he was so happy that he had come to the runway. And then an airport. It was, of course, an airport. He had reached an airport. I was safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black airplane, but the sky was empty. Now this is mystery. He was seeking somebody. He saw who had helped me, but he could not see anybody up there. That was probably because there was no airplane. So which person? So then he's wondering, so who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio? Now he's wondering, who was that pilot who had helped me in that hour of crisis? There's nobody, not a sign. No compass, no radio. I was in lurch at that time, but then there was a pilot. But where is the pilot now? And who was that, pilot on the strange black airplanes flying in the storm without lights? He had no question, no answers. He was blank. Of course, there were questions, but there were no answers to all these questions. That who had helped him. But the end comes here when he's safe and he's keeping himself in the state of wonder. Where did that help come from? But that's where we say even the darkest clouds also have the silver lining. With this, we come to an end of this wonderful, interesting and little mysterious piece, the black airplane, which saved the life of this pilot who was so much eager to have breakfast with his family. And by God's grace, he was safe. I hope you would enjoyed this story, mysterious one. Thank you so much.